My boss at the time, Rob, he made me go to the events, and he was like, look, you just learn stuff and you do what you need to. And I went to every single breakfast for like 3 years. So, and to be honest, now I'm the head of a compliance at our brokerage, and most of the groundwork was done at those FIA events. Welcome to TIA Talks. My name is Jason, and I'm the host of this amazing podcast where we start the conversation that brings change. I've got two amazing hard hitters, big hitters in the industry with me, Lizelle and Darius Wyngaardt. Is that how I say it?
That's how you say it.
It's perfect, eh? Because your business is even called Wyngaardt Brokers, right?
Correct.
There we go. And today it's just like this topic that we're going to discuss today is just really close to my heart. I'm an insurance broker. I've been doing it for 10 years and I love it. I really do. But it comes with its challenges. And maybe Lizelle, I'll start with you. Maybe you can just intro yourself and just give us a little bit of background with what you do in the industry and what your role is.
Thanks, Jason. So, as you correctly said, I am Lizelle van der Merwe. I'm the Chief Executive of the Financial Intermediaries Association of Southern Africa, and that is the representative organization for advisory businesses like Wyngaardt, JVC, and others. It is largely focused on lobbying and advocacy because a lot of work that we do, we lobby on your behalf, given that regulators, policymakers don't understand the day-to-day efforts that intermediaries undertake with clients.
Oh, we go through so much.
Correct. So our job is to make sure that they are educated on the risks, that they're educated on what you do, so that when we craft sort of policy and regulatory frameworks, that those are actually beneficial to clients and, more importantly, also to yourselves in business. My career started as a broker. So
were you a broker?
I was a broker.
Nice.
And that is why I am so biased towards brokers, because I have a huge appreciation for what you do. I've worked with corporates, I've worked with smaller businesses, so I really have experienced the breadth of what you guys do on a day-to-day basis. So in a nutshell, we are a lobbyist and a group of members that do this work, but we also do some training and education. We host some lekker cool networking events for brokers.
I'm sure you've
so we
been
do
to a
lots of
few.
things.
I've been to a couple, and funny enough, my first interaction with any compliance, any training, any education in the industry, it was in my first year of insurance, and I think it must have been like 2012, 2011 or something. And I went to an FIA event. And my boss at the time, Rob, he made me go to the events because at that stage he didn't want to do it, and he was like, "Look, you just learn stuff and you do what you need to, if I get some exposure." And I went to every single breakfast for like 3 years. To be honest, now I'm the head of a compliance at our brokerage, and most of the groundwork was done at those FIA events. So, I mean, it's been a big advocate for me, in my own career.
I'm very glad to hear that.
Darius, you've been a broker for a good 10 years, I think, eh?
I've been in finance for about 10 years, yeah.
Okay.
Started off in the international trust structures with some of the providers that help expatriate funds, that help expats with funds looking to secure that outside of their tax domiciles. Moved around a little bit and had an opportunity to come into the insurance space, upon which I said no, obviously.
Sure.
And they called me again and they said, "Come and have a look at what's going on over here. You might find it of value." At the time I was sitting thinking to myself, do I want to maintain what I'm doing or go into a slightly different direction with my qualification, which is in international relations at the time was my primary qualification, or do I want to muscle myself deeper into the financial space? And after that discussion, I thought to myself, well, I like this black and white, and if it's grey, we act in the favor of the clients, my role at the time. And then I went into a distribution channel for a single insurer, and post that, having experienced a lot of what that was about, cut my teeth, made very good connections, and really made a good connection with my clients at the time, I decided it was time to get into the independent space where you can give impartial advice, where you can work with clients and you can look at creating solutions that offer real value, that are customized, tailored, where you use your experience and your expertise to harness the different products that are in the market in order to safeguard our clients and give them financial continuity. And that's effectively where we are now.
Sure. What he said to my clients as well.
Excellent.
That was very well put. I mean, I've never heard the broker be described like that. And I think that's, yeah, sure. It sounds like you have experience of speaking. That was very eloquent. I know that you've done a few debates in the past and stuff, but there was one debate that I think is quite fresh in my mind was when you actually entered the insurance apprentice.
Yes.
And the debate of whether you should have gone through or not.
Oh my.
And I just want to touch on that before we even move on to the industry and the role that we play and all of those things. Your experience on TIA, how did that go for you? And are you planning to actually enter again?
So fortunately, I'm still quite young, even though all these grey hairs
I was
make
gonna
a
say.
different story. Yeah.
Brokers do that.
Yeah.
Well, broking does do that to you,
Broker
doesn't
does
it?
do
Yeah.
that to you, yeah.
It's definitely a plan to continue entering until I become the very best that no one ever was. The goal is to maintain those relationships that I had made there. It was a very valuable experience. I think you get to, as you achieve and arrive at this summit or this precipice of mastery of what you do as a broker, and you get really good at what you do, you need to look for these small opportunities to bring you the incremental gain. I mean, 1% on the number 1 is a very small fraction, but 1% on the number 100 or 1% on the number 1,000 becomes a much larger jump when we start to make ourselves more masterful at what we do. And ultimately, that's what separates us from the average, is to offer high value and extract as much benefit as possible. And in the same way, we want to do that for ourselves. So to increase our professional development, to increase our relationships, to offer the value of the experience to our clients has been very cool. I've had some very nice experiences, met the likes of yourself and a few of our other colleagues. And
now we're friends.
Now we're friends. And I've touched base with them, and we were able to bounce a couple of things. Look, we're busy people just by nature, but the ability to touch base, to draw on each other's valuable experiences, because we can't all make the same experiences, and actually learn from one another's products and the different spaces that they come in, has been quite valuable as I've progressed now over this last year as well. So to answer in short, definitely going to enter again. I'm looking to make a big difference this time, splash a bit bigger, and hopefully we make a larger contribution this time.
I endorse Darius Wyngaardt.
Thank you. Accept the
for
endorsement.
TIA 2025. Okay, cool. So Darius, I think your experience was quite short-lived.
Yeah.
You know, but I really hope that the next one is going to be a good one.
Thank
you know, I do think that you've got the expertise, and just the chats that we've had. I mean, it's been really good. Lizelle, you've been a judge on TIA before, and that's kind of the first time that I saw you in person, and I really, for lack of a better word, cut myself. I'm sorry, but that was part of it, you know, because you represent us, you know, and going into the competition and you looking at us probably more so than the rest of the competition, you know, and that was nerve-wracking, you know, and I really, what do you think? Because I got far enough, but I really wanted to win TIA, you know, and what do you think it would have taken for a broker specifically to win TIA? And what skills do you think a broker has that makes them a bit different? Because I really do think that there should have been more brokers entering, you know, not enough into the competition, because I think we're a little bit scared of the big wide world out there. The insurers scare us with their actuaries and all those things, you know. So yeah, what is your experience with that, and how could you help the next broker that enters, like Darius?
Well, I think firstly, just huge congratulations to both of you. I mean, you guys have done exceptionally well. I mean, just look at what you've done with TIA. Just look at what you've done with the experience. And that's the profoundness of what you guys do every day. That's what brokers do. They take something small and they multiply it by 100. So for any broker out there, the opportunity to use a platform like this to not only elevate the importance of what you do, how you do it, how you can evolve, how you can innovate, how you can build your network. I mean, it's just phenomenal what you guys have done. And I think looking at it, for me, as I say, I try and not sort of isolate the broker from the other participants. But what I certainly see is that agility, that drive, that spirit that comes with young professionals that work in brokers. It's hugely admirable. And I think certainly as a judge, can you do anything better? I would probably say, if anything, you should embrace the confidence, embrace the opportunity, and really just leverage the platform like you guys have done. I mean, you've done exceptional work, Jason and Darius, on TIA, and I think it just needs to continue. And more brokers should participate, simply because it's also a solutions-focused challenge, which is what you guys do.
That's all we do.
And I'm sorry, but actuaries, they don't come with the solutions.
They
They
come
might
with the
come with
rates.
the
They bring the
pricing.
mats.
They might come with the pricing,
Yeah.
but they ain't coming with a tailored solution. So I think this is a prime platform for brokers to just bring fresh ideas to the table. So really, we would encourage all our members to send young professionals through and participate.
Yeah, we have to think on our feet.
Absolutely.
You know,
Which
every
is what you
day.
do.
You know, I don't know about you, but my phone doesn't go off except for this episode. And I mean, I've been called a few times, 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, just I've lost sleep. We're always on the clock. Yeah, I think. What do you think? What do you, just in terms of being on call and what we do? Do you think there is a need for us still?
As a very biased participant in this conversation, of course there's a space for us.
Yeah.
I think there's many ways to get to Cape Town. It's an analogy. I've been flirting with this last, but you can even go there naked, by the way.
Yeah.
But there are many ways to get there. So you can choose to drive. You can choose to drive in a type of vehicle. You can choose to walk. You could choose to cycle. You could choose to fly. Or you could have somebody chaperone you with the exact intention that you wanted to go to Cape Town with. And was it for sightseeing? Did you want to stop off at family along the way? How is it that you wanted to have the experience of getting to Cape Town? And ultimately that talks to how do we construct a solution that gets us to the goal, gets our clients to the goal in order to enhance the experience of that movement, as well as give them the surety that they're in credible hands. I've got a very big qualm with the industry in general in that many people decide to go direct to insurer, which is fine because there's many ways to get to Cape Town. But I'm surprised by how even very intricate clients go that route as well. There's a reason why we need to do CPDs. There's a reason why we do what we do. There's a reason why we fulfill the role we fulfill and why it still exists. I think the unscrupulous brokers of the past have really hurt the name broker. And the FSCA and a lot of the legislative authorities have offered solutions in the way of wrapping it in compliance. This is how we fix that problem. We make sure that it's wrapped in X way, Y way, so that the client is protected, so that the client is treated fairly, the customer is treated fairly. Now, how do we go about that as a broker and enhance that value is we get the phone calls. I had the strangest and the nicest compliment the other day where one of my clients calls and she tells me afterwards, oh yeah, ek moet my man bel. She has to call her husband post the fact. So I'm the first person on call.
Yeah.
And then it was to, oh yeah, let my husband know. Yeah, I actually had a bit of a prank just to collect the kids and whatnot. But the value we add, I think it was well summed up by one of our colleagues in the last conversations that we had also a TIA participant, where he said it was like having insurance on your insurance. When he talks to the larger clients that they offer, where they offer legal opinion to. And he asked them, why have a broker? And he said, well, it's insurance on my insurance. First of all, because we've got a professional managing it and their team. Second of all, because they also have to carry PI. So if there's a proper problem, and if it was as a result of the fact that the advice was inadequate, not where if you go direct, it becomes the fact that I made the wrong decision or I didn't listen to the wording on the phone. Then they have the protection against the potential repudiation or the reason for repudiation, which then it's an additional value add which people don't realize. You effectively, if you work with a really good broker, you effectively bring somebody in who is responsible for the risk management function of the business that helps you to chaperone through the maze of difficulty that you may have, and then ensures you, once again, your financial continuity. To say, how do we get out of this problem and how do we pay it away via a policy, or how do we balance it away through the way that we interact with our fleets, with our drivers, with our financial institutions, with the people who give us our vehicles, for instance, or the businesses or the rental contracts. So to get all of that into one folder where it's being managed by one person instead of all over the show, I think there's a lot of value in that that's very underrated in our industry at this stage. And, I think yourself and myself included, we're here to show and reassert that dominance and reassert the value of having people who actually give a damn about your business and think about you as a person, not as a deal and not as a commission structure, but as a person and a business that they want to provide that surety for. I think ultimately that's what drives a lot of our behavior.
I think that's exactly it. We bring surety, to the clients. They kind of have peace of mind when they deal with a good broker. Yeah. That being said, there are not all of us are good brokers, because like you mentioned in the past, the insurers used to cut out the middleman.
Yeah, sure.
And that was the big marketing strategy around the direct players. Lizelle, the FIA has been around for a while. What is your take on how the name of the broker has changed over the years and where we are today with regards to the reputation of the broker, and just how are insurers seeing us too? Is there a future for us, not just on the client side, but also on the insurer side, because you deal with them?
Yeah, I think that's quite a loaded question. But what I just want to sort of comment on is something that before I answer your question, something that Darius said. I think and we briefly touched on it sort of before this session started. You can have a billboard and you can spend millions on advertising, and there's a place for that. Marketing is a huge industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. But at the end of the day, insurance is an emotional buying decision. When my house burns down and Darius or Jason shows up, I can assure you no billboard, no money in the world will ever replace the substance of that relationship and that emotional support. And I think that's what brokers do exceptionally well. We're just really bad at telling people about that. Sure. Really, really bad at expressing how important it is that you have that relationship, that you have that support with your clients. And I just really wanted to make that point because, tailored solutions and the structuring and things like that, it all requires expertise. It requires technical expertise. We know that insurance is now no longer the only solution. It's part of the solution. There's risk management and all kinds of things that come into play. But at the end of the day, that relationship and that commitment that you give to your clients is invaluable. Yeah. I think from an FIA perspective, from what product providers are certainly seeing, is that there's huge investment still in distribution. They see brokers as a key role player still. But the concerns that sort of come to play is around risk management, and are brokers investing enough in upskilling their organizations to be able to offer these tailored solutions, because markets are tough, as you know. Pricing is tough, so you have to come up with new ideas and
new value
add for clients. So are brokers really sort of open to that? Are they committed, and do they have the right resources?
Do you think do you think that it might be because a lot of brokers, they're not there's a lot of, I'm just speaking from my own experience. Red tape is one thing, compliance and all of those things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. But the cost of these resources and the cost of outsourcing all these functions for a small brokerage is quite difficult. And for the large brokerage, it just becomes a headache, So how do we navigate that?
So let me sort of start by saying it's one of the strategic avenues that the FIA has taken. We've actually started a profit entity, which is fully owned by members, FIA Services, and the whole intention around FIA Services is in terms of scaling its services to members to be able to offer high-ended value services to clients to enhance their service to their clients, but in a sort of in a way that gives them access to good quality skills and expertise, because for every broker to have access to that would be sort of an unrealistic expectation. I think also insurers are seeing some concern around cyber risk, particularly with smaller businesses, and that's another area that we've actually developed a member shield product for smaller businesses, just to give them sufficient access to products that offer them the necessary protection for them to maintain their
compliance status.
Yeah, their compliance status, and also to give insurers the comfort that their organizations, are protected as best they can from cyber risks. But there is still huge investment in distribution.
That's good to hear.
That is, it's very reassuring. But also what we're seeing is that mergers and acquisitions, particularly,
it's rife now.
It's rife, and also, insurers are big players in that. They're putting up the capital for these mergers and acquisitions to secure distribution. And I think brokers should be very much aware of that.
And do you see from a succession planning point of view in the brokerages, if it's a problem at the moment? Because obviously these acquisitions and the mergers that are happening partly are for succession, because a lot of the brokers are older, they've been around for a long time. There's not many younger professionals in the industry. Not many people choose to be brokers, and I don't know if that's kind of a top heavy thing at the moment, where we're seeing all these things happen with the insurers just to protect their books and their portfolios. Do you think that's partly the reason, or
could be? Yeah, it absolutely is playing a part. I'm not going to deny that. It absolutely is. There is a perception that brokers are aging. I mean, certainly within the FIA database, we've done an analysis, and sort of more than 60% of our members are below the age of 40.
Oh, wow.
So where are they? They're there,
yeah.
But are they coming up? Are they taking leadership positions? Are they active participants in the structures? Are they leading conversations? Are they advocating on behalf of the industry? Are they raising sort of the profile of the advisory community? So I think the youngsters are there. The issue we have, which you've touched on for me, still is why it is a default career and why it's not a chosen career.
Yeah, none of us chose it.
Not even me.
No.
But would I change it?
No, never.
Never.
Yeah.
You would never change it. So why is it a default career? And I think that is something, when I met with a group of risk managers of Allianz a couple of months ago, they specifically said that for them there's a skills gap, and they want to sort of know how we're addressing that as the advisory community. And I said to them, well, that's an industry-wide challenge, and I really do think there is a lot more that we need to do in terms of raising the profile. And that's why I'm such a big supporter of TIA, because I think it's an excellent platform to showcase the young professional talent that sits in our structures, that are changing, that are looking at the future of advisory business very differently. And, we need to create those spaces for you guys to come forward and share your ideas and change the trajectory, because that's what we need.
Yeah, I think you're right in saying it, because every single guest that I've had on the show has mentioned the skills gap. And I think it is a scary thing, but I think it is something that we can address. And I don't think it's a very difficult thing to address. We just, like you mentioned, have to create space for it. And I don't think people are doing that enough. I haven't seen the insurers create those spaces. I've seen some, but if there was more to be done in that space, and even in the broker space. I mean, we've got every type of career in our brokerage.
Correct.
People could choose to go to a broker and do their thing in a brokerage and learn. And if we had the support from the insurers to do that, we are upskilling guys that could do the job at the insurer. And the scary thing for me is, and I mean, I'll say it plainly, is that the skills at the insurer, those skills are leaving to the brokerages at times, and we're seeing a lack of skills at the insurer, and then we start to be the technical guys and not the insurers. Yeah. And that's a worry for me. So I would like to partner with insurers to actually develop those skills in tandem, where we can share resources and we can do things like that. I don't know if that's even a thing, but it just came to mind now. But Darius, what do you think? Or Lizelle, I don't know who wants to touch on that.
Well, I want to just touch on what was mentioned previously on the question of how do we get this career to be a preferred career. Look, I think your barriers to entry are quite challenging. You have to know a lot. You can't just know your script.
Yeah.
You got to understand multiple products, multiple risk profiles, multiple types of client. You have to be emotionally intelligent. You have to go through many different kinds of hoops to be successful in this industry. In addition to that, you also have the problem of the grudge purchase from your customer side. Until you've proven value, you're an expense.
Yeah.
Nobody, especially when risk management hasn't been applied well, and I see it often when we go to old established relationships, and the guys say, "Hey, I've got my broker for 20 years, so there's nothing you can tell me." And we say, "Well, okay, in the philosophy of the Springboks, if we're going to play the best player for the game, then if I put something on the table that's better than his product or what you have currently, since it was the only or the best thing that was available to you, then will you play me? Will you put me as the player on the team?" And when we start to prove that value, because the guys also, as the succession planning lags and as they sort of just sit on the book instead of make a big difference, they end up eroding the quality of the relationship. And then these guys get a bit livid at the fact that, I'm not getting the value that I had been promised from the onset. Or the son comes in and takes over the dad's business, or the daughter, for instance. And they're like, gee whiz, how long has this been like this? We could have had a very different outcome to some of what we've experienced. And so I think it actually then creates a dovetail into the conversation of getting the better imparting of skills, but also working a bit more working well together from a collective perspective to say, listen, let's share, pool our resources. Let's pool the things that we've done as a brokerage and offer it to yourselves and say, this is what we've been successful at, and look at more of a competition than just competition. Because oftentimes it's us against the world, as well as the direct insurers, as well as the other brokerage.
It's a lonely world out there, man.
The other brokerage around the corner. So look, on a positive note, I think it's a hell of a stimulating place. If you've got a desire to do good for other people, you'll love this industry, because there's something for our egos in it as well, where you can do something that only you can do for your client, and you do it, and you help them, and they love it, and you love them back, and you just have a good time together afterwards. You go about, you give them that credible confidence where they feel like, what, actually, I'm just going to go on with my business, if you don't mind. That's your problem.
Yeah.
And they give you, there's nothing greater than that feeling when they say, but that's not my problem. I'm like, yeah, but you should know who you insured with. They're like, no, you know who I'm insured with. I'm like, okay, fine. But we have to increase that level of credibility by building out well, and then offering solutions to our younger guys, saying, come in.
Yeah.
Let me teach you. Let me help you.
Yeah, definitely. I think the youngsters need to come through. I'm not seeing enough.
We're not that old yet, so perhaps we are the youngsters.
Yeah, maybe we still are the youngsters. I'm going to look.
You are the youngsters.
After 3 hip operations, I don't know.
Okay, I'll retract that statement.
Okay, you're not the youngster anymore.
I'll talk about that offline.
Yeah.
Okay. No, so I think firstly, you mentioned the skills, how we could kind of build relationships with people and kind of impart skills together as well. And for me, in our industry, as brokers, relationship is key. And that's never going to come from a direct player anyway. You touched on a lot of intangibles that we add value in, and the clients see that only when they're in a traumatic instance, like you mentioned, or, so I really do believe that we're on the right track to change the way that people see us. And I think you've definitely seen the way that trend has been over the years. How are brokers kind of looked at, or what's the reputation now for the broker? What do you think? Where are we at now? Are we the professionals? Are we
Benchmark,
still?
what are we being measured against?
Yeah, what do we?
I think it's a really difficult question because of the diversity
That's why I couldn't phrase
within the broker market. Okay, and bearing in mind we're talking specifically non-life today, so we can talk about brokers. But when you talk about the life industry or we talk about the investment space, we don't refer to those intermediaries as brokers. But if we talk specifically in the non-life space, you get different profiles of brokers. You get those that are more established, those that are investing heavily in skills, expertise, professional image, professional sort of conduct, and then you get those who've had the relationship for 30, 40, 50 years, and you know what, I go have a cup of coffee, and you know what, that's deemed as acceptable. So I think it would be quite difficult to just make a sort of blanket sort of statement on the image or the perception of brokers. But I would say certainly there has been an improvement in terms of the professional image of the intermediary. And that is largely driven post-COVID with the complexity of risk, climate change, all the stuff you've seen, the way the brokers have showed up, the way they've come with more tailored solutions, the way they've had to be more creative, think out the box. I think that has contributed a lot towards improving the professional image of the broker, but also the capabilities of the broker. I think to Darius's point, it's one thing to sell a product direct, but when you have to actually go and structure a solution that's suitable to a client's specific needs, depending on the sector, depending on the risk, it's complex. It's a very, very complex space. I think the professional status has certainly been elevated. And also from a regulatory perspective, there you've got to give credit to regulators as well. I think the investment of CPD, doing it properly, making sure that as an organization you're investing in training and education. And I think this is something we often get challenged with by our members. They're saying, you know what, but I'm spending money on training and then I'm losing them to JVC or I'm losing them to Wyngaardt. But you're almost eating off my plate. And our sort of narrative around that is that all advisory businesses should be investing heavily in training and
Simon
education.
Sinek speaks about this, though. I don't know if to quote the great Simon Sinek.
Tell us.
He's like, he's speaking about how challenging it is to train somebody up and sweat and bleed and go through the trenches together. And they're like, oh, well, I'm up, I'm going now, thanks. And this colleague of his expresses this to him and he says, you know, what if I train them and they just go? And it's like, okay, and worse, what if you don't train them and they stay?
Yeah.
And it's like, gee whiz, guys. So ultimately, we're going to be washing each other's hands in these exercises because much like we have clients that we work with that want to work with people like ourselves, it's the same thing when it comes to the people we work with within our business as well. So as much as we have an outer persona, we have an inner persona, and certain people fit better within the way we run our businesses and other people don't. And so that natural trading will happen until relative saturation of a mature business until that point. But that's also a necessary part of how we move skills and experience throughout the industry and contribute positively to it.
Yeah, I don't think we should be scared of that. I think we should train people up, get them skilled up, and if they decide to leave, they decide to leave. But as long as they don't leave the industry, you know, that's the big thing. You know, the skills that are leaving the industry, it's frightening, and I don't want that to happen because we will have a situation one day where there's no skill at the insurers, at the brokers, you know, those type of things. And I'd rather have the problem of, oh, I've trained them, Darius, you can take them, you know, than not at all. But I think in closing, I just want to, in every episode, we kind of have a thing. I phrase it like this: what is your burden, or what is on your heart that you really want to change in the industry? It doesn't have to be with what you do at the moment. It could be something really out there that you've always had a passion for, that you want to drive change in. Darius, I'm going to start with you so Lizelle can have the closing word. But yeah, what is your burden?
Two things that come to mind, and I wouldn't call it a burden, but it's my load to carry, my heavy load. One is young male leadership in general. I've got a big passion for that. I've got a sort of illustrious career of having been on different leadership positions in different spaces. And I think that's something I'm definitely eyeing to improve as I go along, to offer more mentorship and stuff like that to the guy who's 10, 15 years younger and would like that coaching. That's one of the things I want to contribute more to, perhaps with the leadership school as we go along. And then the other one is, it's actually a philosophy that we've got in the business that we strive to live up to on an absolute daily, minute, hourly, second, every second of every day, which is that we must be trusted to always act in our client's best interest, no matter what. Because if it's good for the client, it's good for us. And that's a philosophy that I wish our industry took a bit more seriously. That if it's good for the client, then it's good for us. That includes if the policy size reduces. That includes if the premium gets cheaper. That includes that if I had to do 50 hours worth of PT to make sure that this client is properly covered from their arse to their elbow. That includes that conversation because it's good for the client. To put that level of care into what we do instead of being flippantly signing deals or getting involved in a business on a very superficial level where we don't offer them the maximum value of the relationship that comes, especially from the broker. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you, Jason.
Lizelle?
So for me, it would be quite a different, I think, idea. It would be really to use a platform like the FIA that is, I don't know, I mean, collectively between all the organizations that's come together, it's probably more than 50 years old.
Yeah.
Its constitution, its structures, its capital, its resources, the communities. I mean, you've got 25 branches structured into regions, structured into discipline-specific excos, regulatory board committees. My burden would be, how do you call on members to use that structure and actually make the difference that you're asking for, and not sitting back and saying, well, what have you done for me in terms of the Kofi bill or the levies bill, but rather say, what am I doing to use the structure that is founded and funded by brokers to make a profound impact on the future of advisory businesses because the structures are there, the money is there, the capital is there, the community is there, the resources are there.
It's everything we need.
It's everything you need.
Yeah.
It's just what you now do to take it, own it, and use it. And that is a huge burden for me because seeing within the structures that you don't see enough change in leadership, you don't see the young people coming through, changing the conversation, challenging what's being presented, I'd really like to see that vibrancy within our structures because I'm really passionate about what you guys do. I think what you do is so critically important for clients. I mean, regulators globally tell us, you are the solution. You are the ones that are closest to the customer. You come with the solutions. How do we make that a constructive a constructive process with regulators where we can also come with solutions and not just be reactive on proposals, but really start influencing where we're going. So that would be my burden.
That is the call to every broker that is a member of the FAA, regardless, actually, even if you're not, to just use them. Use them. The value that you find with the FIA is just incredible. And I'm testament to it from 15 years ago, or whatever it was. And I just urge every broker to really make use of your facilities and just your value that you bring. Darius, Lizelle, thank you so much for today.
What a pleasure.
It was,
thank you, Jason.
It was so nice to chat to guys that love the broker. I feel like there was no fighting or anything like that. So that was great, but I really do appreciate it. And I don't know if you want to end anything with anything else, but I think you've said enough. Hey Darius, sure, I could listen to you all day.
You can't stop me, bro.
I could really listen to you.
Say enough.
You should be on radio.
Broker.
I feel you take the mic. Okay, from the next episode, Darius will be here. But thank you so much, Darius, for your time.
Thanks
I know
for having
you're
us.
very, very busy, and Lizelle, I mean, the big hitter in the industry. I know you've taken your time to be with us, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Darius.
Lizelle.
Awesome. Click, click.